Welcome to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast, a show chocked full of strategies for scaling your speaking business. Now here's your host, coach to the industry superstars, Jane Atkinson.
Well, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. I'm your host, Jane Atkinson, and today we are talking about your vision for your speaking business. Our special guest is my former client, Jacob Green. Jacob, I'm so happy to see you.
Hi, Jane. Me too. I can't even tell you how excited I've been for this conversation after listening to so many episodes and wanting someday to come on the show. So thank you for having me.
Well, this is long overdue, I must say. Normally, I would ask someone to launch in and share the business model first, but let's put that on pause for just a second. I'd love for you to share the incident that really changed the trajectory of your life. This is kind of the story that you tell from the stage sometimes.
Yeah, thanks, Jane. And again, I just such an honor, and I can't wait to talk about the ways in which you really were a huge part of changing the trajectory of my life in such
Ah,
a positive way. So I think we'll get there because I think there's so much for your audience to hear about the impact of finding a really good coach in this business and someone that can help you navigate this quite daunting and overwhelming industry that you helped me figure out and decode. I got into speaking because really a pivotal incident that happened to me. I went off to college. I knew exactly what I was going to study. I was going to be a diplomat and create world peace and all kinds of wonderful things. And I got into UC Berkeley studying international relations and thought that my life was all set. And I thought that I had all the answers and that every class was defined and everything was going to be great until February 6th of my freshman year. I
mm,
interrupted a robbery taking place at the downtown Berkeley BART station. I intervened when two subway workers were being attacked, trying to distract a little bit of tension away from the assailant so that the subway workers could call the police and take care of business. And what ended up happening is I was successful in getting him out of the ticket booth where he was attacking the subway workers, but I then was also successful in getting all of his attention, which turned out not to be the greatest thing in the world. So he charged at me, pulled something out from behind his back, and struck me about 5 or 6 times in the side of the head. And that resulted in a number of cervical injuries, a subdural hematoma, and a minor skull fracture. Not a big deal. The much bigger deal was the traumatic brain injury that resulted. So I had to drop out of college. I did 2.5 years of full-time rehabilitation. I did speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, neurology, neuropsychology over a 2.5 year, very intensive period. Uh, quite a journey. And I think to sort of fast forward to how that ties and connects to the journey, the one thing I had some really difficult and dark moments in that 2.5 years, and a lot of questioning as to whether or not, life was worth moving forward with, and if I
mm,
wanted to continue on this path, because it was very tough. I had to, relocate and enter a full-time rehabilitation school, and things were quite tough. And the one thing that really drove my rehabilitation was restoring a sense of purpose into my life and
mhm.
figuring out how to bring back purpose. It was based on work done by Dr. Viktor Frankl in his book, Man's Search for Meaning.
Yes.
He says a quote that my mentor is Bill Holloman-Darris, and my mentor's mentor was Dr. Viktor Frankl. And
Oh my
so
goodness.
he on one particular night cited a line from Dr. Viktor Frankl's book, which was forces beyond your control can take away everything you possess except for one thing, the freedom to choose how you respond to the situation. And so
Yes.
that really changed my rehab journey. And it got me thinking about how could I one day use this 2.5 years of full-time rehabilitation to create some purpose and meaning in my own life and help others navigate their unique journeys.
Yeah, yeah. And what were some of the lasting effects of that traumatic brain injury? Just so people kind of understand what your day to day is like today.
Yeah, great question. So, the cover of my book is a pair of sunglasses. It's a pair of sunglasses for a reason because I have photophobia as a result of the injury, which means I have extreme sensitivity to light. You're probably used to seeing me with much darker green glasses on. Today I'm sporting my light blue glasses. We try
Blue,
lots of different
yes.
things in lots of different environments. Um, and so I have extreme sensitivity to light, and that led me on a journey to try to find some answers to that. I have difficulty with short-term memory still. I
Okay.
have quite a bit of trouble reading, although it's not something that I, talk too much about, but I have still quite a struggle with reading
Okay.
and some various different auditory issues. I can't go to football games. I can't go to movie theaters. I can't go to stadiums, fairs, large events. The brain in brain injury
Too
can
much.
lose the filters
Hmm.
and can cause some significant challenges. So, but in brain injury school, you learn lots of different compensatory techniques, and so I have an entire tool belt that I walk around with every single day that uh, enables me to navigate and not overcome those deficits, but mitigate the effects of those deficits.
Well, I want us to now go to your business model today, which, based on what you just said, is even more crazy successful. Like you kind of took this idea of becoming a professional speaker and you expanded it into what was perfect for you and your family and everything at that point. And do you want to talk about kind of where you started and where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I have to give you all the credit for this because the way that the business looks today is very much modeled after your philosophy of really understanding why are you speaking? Are you speaking to connect and convey message and be a professional keynote speaker, which is great? Or
Mm-hmm.
are you speaking to fuel a business and in my case, a consulting practice?
Right.
And so I did after the rehabilitation process, which continued on for many years part-time. I'm still with my brain injury doctors on a quite regular basis. I went into local government and I first started actually as an emergency medical technician and then as a 911 dispatcher and then as an emergency manager. And I worked my way through 18 years in local government in a variety of different executive positions. I was a fire department command staff member doing public information and emergency management. I was then police administrative director, overseeing a lot of the civilians in the police department. I then was an economic development agency director. And then my last 6 years in city management as basically the number two, like a COO in a city. And and then in my last about 6 years or 7 years of that, I was dabbling in the speaking uh, business and career. And all because I came across on Amazon this book called Wealthy Speaker 2.0. And I knew I wanted to speak, and I had been involved in different kinds of speaking environments, but didn't know what a professional speaker was or what was needed until I came across that book. And the Wealthy Speaker book, I got about 3 chapters in. I think you'll probably remember this. I got about 3 chapters in, and then I said, I have to connect with this author because I was so energized by what I was reading. It was like exactly what I needed to figure out how do I become serious about being a professional speaker. And
Mhm.
I found an email address for you and I sent an email the email just said, thanks for writing this book. As someone who doesn't know anything about this industry, thank you. And you wrote back, I think like the same day. And you said, look, if you finish the book, drop me another email and we can talk about it. I finished the book slowly, surely, it took a long time.
Yeah.
I wrote to you, and that started the adventure of working with you and really helping me understand how to formulate the speaking business. And I just started speaking everywhere. Anybody that would hire me, $500, $1,000, $2,500, $5,000, you name it, I was a yes. And then I had to learn about your fee integrity, right? And I had to channel my Jane and sticking with your fees and fee integrity and and that actually helped and it kept growing and growing. And then the bureaus got a hold of me and I started getting connected with the bureaus and I started speaking for bureaus. And one thing led to another. I launched my book in 2019. It became an Amazon best release, new release bestseller in 5 different categories. And that you had always said a book is like your business card, your calling card in speaking. And boy, that took my speaking to a whole different level. And ultimately formed in 2021 my company, Jacob Green and Associates. Today there are 32 of us on the team.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, we
What?
really formed quite a team. And I speak, if not every week, every other week, as a way to really connect with the audience. And my focus is providing so much value in the keynote that audience members call and say, can your team come in and help us solve that problem? So we do strategic planning, organizational assessments, team building, all kinds of different things. And we've really, grown and expanded. But keynote speaking is the number one best way that our brand and our connection occurs from the start.
32 people on your team. I was looking at it on your website, Jacob Green and Associates, and I was looking at the About Us page, and then I had to scroll to the next page and the next page. It was like, what? Look at all
Yeah.
these people that are there. Talk a little bit about the team that you've built and how is it mostly outside trainers? Like tell me a little bit about the makeup of the team.
Yeah. Our team
Starting
are,
with Nicole, by the way, because she's now no longer have it. I don't remember what job she had before. What
yeah.
what was her job?
So we have a really amazing group of people. My dream was to one day assemble a group of superstars that I could work with and learn from and just get better, level up myself. And so we have different teams that are responsible for different areas of client delivery and services. I'm not the only keynote speaker presenter in the company, thank goodness. We have
Okay,
some incredibly talented keynote speakers and folks that do conferences and associations and keynote speaking, but primarily we're providing consulting services. So
right.
primarily our team is going into client environments. We do focus about 90% of our work is on the public sector. So
Yes,
cities, counties, and special districts, because as you have taught me, Jane, it's important to focus on what you know
and you
and really
knew.
specialize on the group that you can serve best.
Mm-hmm.
So we focus primarily on the public sector, but we also happen to do a lot of private sector work, and I do a lot of keynote speaking on the private sector work just because that is what ends up being talked about and discussed. And but we're really about focusing on helping the public sector solve their key organizational challenges.
I remember one of your very first kind of, ooh, we've hit a new level, was for Mattel. and you
Yes.
and you went and spoke, and
Yes.
I don't know if Barbie was there or not, but it was
Harvey was
really
there.
cool. What a
Harvey was that
really
was
cool piece.
so cool. That was such a fun one.
That was
Um,
before the movie, I think, maybe even.
It was before the movie,
Yeah,
it was a great one. So many lessons out of I was really thinking about this because I've learned so much for your podcast. And I was thinking about, you bring up Mattel and it brings up a little lesson. Jane, would you mind if
sure.
I talk about something?
Let's hear it.
You know, you can, I think, only learn and get better in this industry by just speaking and getting out there and doing it,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
And you've always said that. And you said chicken lunches and whatever you got to do just to speak and speak and speak and get out there. And things started really growing. And so I ended up doing quite a bit of Fortune 100, companies and big opening keynotes. And there's an important lesson from one of them that I learned that I think I should share, which is another Fortune 100 company. I won't name it,
Yes.
but I was hired to do their North America opening keynote for their sales conference.
Okay.
And there, I don't know, there was probably 500 people or something like that there. And I gave the keynote, standing ovation at the end of the keynote. I thought, I'm amazing. I'm a Fortune 100 company and I'm doing the opening keynote. They're on their feet. They're loving this. This is amazing. And I see the senior VP in the front row. He was standing, but he was giving me one of those very slow,
Uh-oh.
claps. And I thought, oh, this is special. And the room clears out, and he comes up to me and he says, "Would you mind if I gave you a little advice?"
Ooh.
I thought, oh, this is not, those are the words you never want to hear, right? I mean, I'm always open to advice, but not quite from the meeting planner that, had hired me. And he said, when you come back here again, don't ever use another foul language word in
Oh.
this environment.
Oh.
And what I had done was I had repeated from the stage the language that the assailant had used when he was literally trying to kill me. He didn't
Right.
say, please stop. If you don't
Yeah.
stop, I'm going to kill you. He had some other choice language that
Expletives.
he used.
Yes. Yes.
And and I said, absolutely, I understand. And I learned an incredibly important lesson that has stayed with me, which
Mm-hmm.
is the questions that you ask the client on a discovery call and the
Yes.
way in which you don't make any assumptions about the
Yes.
environments that you're going in.
Yes.
Little lessons like that, Jane, that I have learned from you and that I learned in my experiences have become so important. So as I was thinking about getting the chance of a lifetime to be on your podcast and sharing little nuggets that you helped me with and that I've learned, that's one. I think it's made me a much better speaker
Yeah.
today because I spend so much time learning about what the client's expectations, off limits, on limits. It's made me
Yes.
much more able to customize my approach. And I thank you for saying it. Unfortunately, I had to learn it
The
in
hard
that
way.
environment.
Well, I think you drilled it down though to a really good point is that you're asking the right questions, i.e., would anyone feel uncomfortable or be offended if I said this? We're
Yes.
not going to go line by line through your presentation, but you know the places where people might be a little bit weird about it. Asking the question allows you to go in. And yeah, I think that is just a terrific question to be asking your client.
I'll give you one more that's worked really, really, really
Okay.
well. And again, inspired from your teachings, which is what I say to the meeting planner, what do you want the audience member to come up to you and say at the very end of the
I like
keynote?
that. I
I
like
usually
that.
start with that. They may say, I want the audience member to come up to me, my attendee, and say they were so inspired. Okay, great.
Yes.
Or they may say, I want my salesperson to come up and say, I can tackle any sales challenge that I
Yeah.
come across because Jacob just talked about overcoming brain injury or
Yeah.
whatever, right? And that helps customize and frame the rest of the questions in the conversation that we have.
Yeah. You and I, before we started talking, talked a little bit about the mindset piece. And I'm thinking that you had to overcome some fear when it came to bringing your wife into the business with you. Our spouses often, if we're the speaker, the entrepreneur, we're the balloon up in the air, and the spouse is usually the rock, just kind of holding things steady. And oftentimes they have health benefits and things that we don't get necessarily as entrepreneurs. Talk a little bit about what that decision was like. I don't, I'm not even sure if I know exactly when it happened. Do
Yeah,
tell.
that's a great question. Before I had my company, when I was speaking early on and was really, really crappy. But speaking early on, I knew that I needed support to do a few things. One is to navigate a crowd of 1,000 people, two to help with book sales and all those things and those book signings and stuff that I often do after keynote. But most importantly, I needed someone who um, could help me improve and get better. And look, I'll be totally like, often don't talk about these kinds of things, but with the brain injury, after a keynote session, especially after 2 hours of book signing, long line. And by the way, when people standing in line after a okay, they want to buy the book, but if I sign it, it decreases the value. So they're not even sitting there really for the book. They open up by saying, I've never told this to anybody before,
Oh,
but I went through XYZ when I was 8 years old, or I've never told this to anybody before, but I
yeah.
lost my mom when whatever, because that's how we connect, right? As
Yeah.
keynotes, that's how we connect. And it's very emotional and intense. And my
Mm-hmm.
brain gets pretty worn down and exhausted,
Overwhelmed.
overwhelmed. I'm on the stage, I give everything I have up there. If you can't
Mm-hmm.
tell, I'm passionate about this stuff, right? And when I'm up there, I am all in and I am totally present. And I'm really, again, because of you and what I've learned from you about how to do this craft, I am insanely in the moment and present and customized to my audience. It takes a lot of brain power. And
Yeah.
so I really need someone with me to handle the ground logistics,
Navigate.
to help me improve. So if it's Nicole or there's about 5 or 6 people that go to every keynote. Someone, at least one member of that team goes to every one of my keynotes, and they have a bunch of different jobs. Yes, it's to handle ground logistics because I want to focus solely on delivery.
Yes.
I want to focus on connection and listening and being present for the people that I'm connecting with because I'm talking about really, really deeply sensitive things. And also, my expectation of whoever comes with me is they will
Mm-hmm.
sit in the back with a notebook and they will take pages of notes on everything that I messed up and every area that I can improve. And I don't know how many hundreds of keynotes I've, given after all these, 10 plus years of professional speaking now. But I will tell you that there's not a team member that doesn't come back with pages of notes. That's my expectations. I have a few
Wow.
team members who will mark down if I said the word from the stage, and it's because of them that I get to do what I do because I get to be a better and more effective speaker. So I encourage everybody that's on this journey. It's so lonely and it's so isolating.
Yeah.
Find a friend or a family member or a teammate that can go and help give you notes, you know?
Yeah. And in the early days, um, was it hard taking feedback from Nicole?
I mean, I have to do it every day as a husband, right? But
Ah,
uh, you know, um, she and the other team members that provide that support for me on the ground team, they're amazing
yeah,
and they're willing to be honest and none of the I wish I could say it's only my wife that doesn't, hold anything back. No, everybody knows
that's
we
good.
want we want to help each other improve and get better. And also our clients love it because it helps with the overall experience. We have different eyes that are really helping make sure that keynote experience delivers more than just the stage.
All right. Now go back to the part where I don't remember what it was that she did for a living, but she had to quit her job to come work for you. Was that a big gulp moment for the family to be, yeah, we're doing this?
Yeah, she was a childbirth educator and a doula.
Oh,
She had her
right.
own business, childbirth educator, very successful business, kind of the
Yeah,
go-to in the region for not only childbirth but doula. And for the 99% of folks that don't know what a doula is, I didn't know what a doula was. It's
helps.
basically a birth attendant, someone that
Like a
attends
birth
births and
coach.
birth coach. Yeah, birth
Yeah.
coach. And
Okay.
so she became certified as a coach and providing lots of different coaching and support. And she's always been someone that's been able to help others, shine. And that's what she does with our clients is helps our clients be successful. And so, yeah, I mean, things just kind of continue to grow. And as you know, we have 4 kids. And so there was a lot to manage and figure out. But She is an incredibly important piece of helping create connection with our meeting planners and with our clients. And she
Mm,
has trained a great team now to help and travel and support all the moving pieces that go on. Because as you know, Jane, there's a lot more than just the stage. There's so
yeah,
many more elements that a meeting planner depends on the keynoter to deliver, not just that 45 minutes or an hour on a
yeah,
stage.
for sure. Talk a little bit about your goal is to have people come up afterwards and say, I could really use your help implementing this idea. Talk about what a consulting project might look like, some of the bigger ones that you've landed. Just give me some details about that and what your team is doing.
Ah, love the question. Thank you for the question because I love this. So, the goal from back when, what helped me get through the brain injury, process was let me someday use this, right? So my book is all about what did I learn in brain injury school that applies to the professional work environment? How do you build resilient teams? How do you
Mm,
build a resilient organization? Because my journey is one about trying to find and discover resilience and how to
right.
get back in the world and how to survive something that eliminates purpose and meaning. So my book is all about what are the lessons from brain injury? Like my publisher said, well, may not be good, but there's nobody that's written a book about what lessons apply from brain injury school to the office, right? So at least I knew I was going to be different in the book.
Right,
And that's what it
right.
turned out to be. And so my keynotes, yes, it's about brain injury, but more importantly, it's what lessons apply from brain injury journey to help you as a leader and your team be resilient, personal and
Yeah.
professionally. So, audience members, what they are often hiring our teams to come in and do is
Hmm.
offsite retreats, team buildings, strategic planning, visioning, organizational assessments, those kinds of consulting services that
Hmm.
help build resilience and help
Mm.
create success. And we do that in lots of different ways. Sometimes it's in crisis management. I have some of the best crisis management folks. Sometimes it's one-on-one advisory services and executive coaching. Sometimes it's in team building environments. But all those things originate truly from brain school.
Yeah, that's so cool. And is there any kind of measurement tool to measure how resilient is your team?
Oh,
Did
love
you
it.
develop something?
I wish I could say I developed it. We use a tool called the AEM Cube assessment. AEM Cube assessment. And we're certified in that assessment. It's a result of research that was done out of the Netherlands, the Purdue, and the UK. And a group of researchers got together 10 plus years ago and they wanted to figure out what does a resilient team look like?
Mm,
What are the character qualities, attributes to build resilience in decision making of a team? And so this is an assessment that evaluates the cognitive diversity of a team because the researchers figured out the number one thing that makes you resilient is the
mhm,
level of cognitive diversity of the team that you've assembled, the
mhm.
company that you run, the organization that you're responsible for. And so
Okay.
this assessment helps you build the cognitive diversity of the team. It's used in lots of our different services and certainly help to give us a sense of awareness as leaders and help our people align around this concept of cognitive diversity.
That's fascinating. So, if you were looking back at the beginning, when maybe there was some fear and self-doubt involved, what advice would you give to yourself back in the day? I mean, I feel as though the journey you went on, that whole concept of speak to anyone who will listen, going out on the rubber chicken circuit,
Mhm.
you did that brilliantly, and then things just exploded. And I just want to say the reason they exploded was because you were damn good right from the jump. If you weren't, we wouldn't be having this same conversation. It would be a different conversation. So you being good was really at the crux of this. And I know, so what would you say to yourself, young, Jacob just getting out on the speaking circuit itself?
Well, you're kind because I kind of beg to differ. I think I was ultra crappy and really didn't know how to focus my connection and create impact. And what changed that was you. I mean, I don't know. I can't make this up, right? I mean, the journey is the journey, and I can remember going to one of your 3-day workshops, and I'm watching all these incredible speakers, and then it was like my turn, and I like bombed like horrifically. And I remember, but that's okay. It's not it's not insulting for me to say that. What's important, I think, early on is that you find someone who believes in you. And that's
Mm.
the piece that you filled for me. I was very alone. All I knew was I wanted to connect better with audiences, and I wanted to learn how to make connection and make impact. And I came across your book on Amazon. There's really no other way I mean, the truth is the truth. That's what happened. I email you. I meet with you. I didn't know how in the world I was going to afford coaching. It was the best ROI I could have ever invested in. Having someone who could work with me that believed in me for whatever reason. I don't know why you believed in it. You believed in it, and that gave me a little bit of confidence to go through your plan, your journey in the book and the workbook, and really figure out how to do this thing. I didn't have to create the formula. I wasn't the first keynote speaker on the planet, right? You knew as an expert coach how to get someone to become a professional speaker. And it's about following that formula that you put together and listening and learning from all those individuals that you helped and that you launched. One that comes to mind that you introduced me to was Ryan Estes. And, you really spoke about that journey and connect me with Ryan, and things just really took off. And so I think the best advice that I could give to my whatever early self or anybody looking to get in this career is connect with someone who can help you, who has the playbook, who has the formula, and can believe in you, because it's a very lonely journey being a keynote speaker.
It
Very
can
lonely.
be for sure, for sure. You're out there, you're getting all these brilliant accolades on the stage, and then you're back at your hotel room by yourself. Often you're not anymore, but it can be an incredibly lonely business, and not knowing if you're doing the right things. I think a lot of people, we talk about this a few times, and in the new book, the 3.0 version of the book, we talk about the chocolate chip cookie theory. That if you're going to bake a batch of chocolate chip cookies, you would go online and you would find the best recipe, and then you would follow that one recipe. You wouldn't go and find a YouTube video and listen to a podcast and read a book and then start scraping together a recipe from a whole bunch of different ideas. You would just follow one recipe. And that's what Ready Aim Launch is for us. And thank you for being a terrific testimonial to that, because it really does work, people, when you follow the formula that the Ryans and the Kendras of the world had taken, and now we can put Jacob in that group as well. It works. And I'm so happy that you also created a whole different business model from what many people have. This consulting thing, I think, was really purposeful for you. You came out of the public sector. You'd been a civil servant for a long time, and you really excelled. You kept getting these great jobs, another great job, another great job. And it probably made really good sense for you to go into consulting.
Yeah, it's worked really well for us in terms of, really trying to focus on how to create long-lasting relationships with audiences and
Mm.
maximize value. I don't particularly love going into a company, giving a keynote and saying, "See you later, have a good life." There's nothing wrong with that. There's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that model.
just have a
For
want for more.
I just have a want.
Hmm.
Because we research so much, we do interviews before a keynote, I do tours of factories and
Yeah.
companies and sites. I feel so connected. I don't want to just say goodbye. I want to say, I hope there's some energy here, And I hope we can figure out a way next month to help you continue to level up on
Yeah.
your company's success.
Yeah.
And so for me, it has been about connecting the keynoting with the consulting as the thing that gives me the most fulfillment and allows me to make the most impact. That is
Yeah.
by no means a right or wrong approach. It's, as you point out in your book, just one model that you can consider in putting together this profession.
Oh, I really love the keynote being kind of just the beginning.
It's just the
It's the
beginning.
beginning of the process toward
That's right.
change, and this is indeed how you affect more change.
That's right.
Speak just as our final question here. I know we've got a time frame. Speak a little bit to um, government versus these Fortune 100s that you're working for, corporate versus government. What do you feel are some of the differences that people might want to know working in the public sector versus private?
You mean in terms of serving and keynoting for
Yeah, like
public
there's
sector
probably a lot
audiences?
more hoops with the public sector, is there, to get through to even get the contract in the first place?
Yeah, great question. I do love this topic. Yes, it depends. Sometimes in the private sector, you got to go through 4 or 5 layers to get to a decision maker, right?
True, true.
Sometimes in a public sector, there's a much more competitive process. Sometimes. We really focus on developing relationships. Developing those relationships at the ground level is the best way to, ultimately connect. And we speak to audiences a lot of times that we know how to connect with the audience. I think no matter what audience, making sure that your language, your approach, your slides, your imagery is really relevant to the audience that you're speaking to. I think that's the key. So, that builds your credibility, that creates impact, that creates connection. I've always loved what you've said about finding a niche and
Mm,
really becoming the speaker for that niche. Um,
yeah.
Not one time have we ever reached out to a potential client to speak. It's all inbound. And it's because we've really niched a lot of times in that public sector and they kind of know us and are
Yeah.
familiar with us. So the more that you can really niche, I think, and get really good and go and be a part of contributing to that specific set of clients and that industry, I think that really
Mhm.
does help. I can't be everything to everybody at this
Love
point
that.
in the business. So I,
I
I
really love that. So if we were to kind of drill down your best advice when it comes to marketing, I'm going to put in be good. That's really why you're as busy as you are today. But the second piece might be niche and become known as the expert in a space. And that way, those people will be attracted to you rather than you trying to push yourself out into the market. You're going to attract people towards you.
I'll add one more thing, Jane, to that, maybe a third
Okay,
thing.
please.
And I actually learned this for 4 years in government. I was in charge of an event called State of the City.
Okay.
And it's a one night event every year. Most cities have it. And our particular city, I had a $400,000 budget for a one evening event, which is a pretty big budget for a one
Yeah.
evening city event. And I could
Yes.
hire keynote speakers to
Nice.
speak at the event. I was like the executive producer.
Yeah.
So I hired keynote speakers for those 4 years. I hired Robert Herjavec from Shark Tank. I
Mm,
hired many of the top names that you know and that you've been a part of and supporting. And so I was the meeting planner, executive producer.
yes.
And when I hired these keynote speakers, what differentiated the keynote speakers was not the fee, was not, it was how much value were they going to provide me to help the audience have a true experience. And what I learned from that now is when I'm talking to a potential client and doing a discovery call, I don't focus about the stage. I say, what else? What else can I do to provide more value at your conference?
Mm,
What else can I do to provide more value at your association? What
okay.
other things do you wish a keynote last year would have done to give you a better experience? And so we're looking at creating experience and
Okay.
service not just stage time.
I love that. And, it really harkens me back to the last conversation that I had on this podcast with Ryan Estes. I think his kind of before care and after care of the
Yes,
clients, he
he's
goes
right.
out on sites and does site visits beforehand. And,
Yes,
Jacob, a lot of speakers are not doing those things. And I'm not suggesting that everybody has to. I'm just saying, Exhibit A, Exhibit B, take a look, decide if you want to run a seven-figure business or not.
right.
Um, I want to make sure we get the name of your book, See Change Clearly. I'm assuming people can get it anywhere books are sold.
Yep, that's right.
And how would you best like people to connect with you? Are you a big LinkedIn guy? You want them to come to your website? What would you like people to do?
Yeah, LinkedIn is where we play and talk about all these experiences and keynote speaking. So LinkedIn's great. The website's great. There's a information form you can fill out, or just Jacob at jacobgreenandassociates.com. No E at the end of green.
Oh,
And
yeah.
feel free to drop me an email directly, not a problem.
Okay, and on LinkedIn, there's no middle initial or anything. It's just
Right.
Jacob Green. Okay.
That might be Jacob Green keynote speaker or something like that fully, but
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
Jacob Green, yeah. You can find me on there.
Oh, my goodness. It has been such a pleasure to see where you are today in your journey. I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited for you and your family. I mean, how much has this changed? You've got four children. How old's your youngest now?
Yeah, so 17, 15, 13, and 10. And
10.
you know,
Okay. So
uh
how much has this changed your family life, what you've done, what you've built here?
yeah, I mean, it's important that I talk to them because I'm on the road every week, typically on an airplane every other week on, I'd say, it's important that they know that we're doing this because it's incredibly important that we serve and make impact. And my oldest saw a keynote a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yay.
It's her second time coming with me. And so, hopefully all the kids at the appropriate time, because I talk about some pretty intense stuff, will
Mm,
see the keynote so that they understand the audience reaction and the connection that we're making. It's important to continue to be of service in that way, and that the time away and the time on the road is being spent, not wasting, but really trying to make impact and create
yeah.
value. So I feel very lucky. And I can't thank you enough, Jane, because you really, I can
Aw.
absolutely point to, I am the largest purchaser of your book. I hope you know that. I have the award on the wall. I have bought your book for more people than I think any other person across the entire planet. And I'm proud of that title and that award because your work, your investment, your belief, and your support was what I can point to that allowed me
Oh,
to do this very fulfilling work. So thank you. What a
thank you.
crazy honor to actually be on your podcast.
Well, I am thrilled to have you here, and I'm thrilled to hear all of the details of your success. And for those of you listening in, I hope you will connect with Jacob. He really means it when he says connect with me. It's an important part of who you are. Thank you all for listening. And with that, we're going to say, see you soon, wealthy speakers. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. If you need help scaling your speaking business, head over to speakerlauncher.com and chat with us.